Hello there. So, the past few console generations, we've seen so many of these collections, like title, franchise, company collections for video games and stuff, um, which I think, basically it's just, let's be honest, these companies are like banking on our nostalgia, but, I kind of like, sometimes they're nice because it's like, well, for younger generations and like more casual audiences, it's a way for them to enjoy these retro titles if they don't have like the old systems or whatever. And for certain ones, it's like I've talked about this before on my channel. It's like I feel like it's like hey, if it's puts more money and attention to this IP, then hell, I'll buy these repackaged games. But yeah, there are ones that I feel like still haven't happened that I would love to see happen, which I'll talk about in a minute. First let's like go through just the ones that I personally have. I mean, there are others. These are just the ones that I personally own. Like, for because I feel like this is when we saw a lot of this was during the sixth generation. Like there was the Capcom Classics Collections Volumes 1 and 2, Midway Arcade Treasures Volume 1, Title Legends 2, SNK Arcade Classics, Mega Man Anniversary Collection, Mega Man X Collection, I Got a Sneeze Coming, Namco Museum. Let's move on to the 7th generation. And like I said, there are others. These are just the ones that I personally own. The Sega Genesis, Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection. I always forget the name of that. Midway Arcade Origins. Let's move up to the 8th gen. Rare Replay Collection. Mega Man Legacy Collections, Volume 1 and 2. Mega Man X Legacy Collections, Volume 1 and 2. SNK 40th Anniversary Arcade Collection. Crash Bandicoot, Saint Trilogy, and the Spyro Reignited Trilogy. Technically, these aren't collections, but you get my point. So, and another one I have digitally is the Capcom Beat 'em Ups bundle, which just came out. I own that digitally, and Konami made those ones like the Castlevania and Contra collections and stuff. But anyway, and actually Capcom has another one coming out, an arcade one coming out in February, I believe. But it's like, I think we're always going to see these collections, but ones that necessarily haven't been done yet that, maybe it's just me thinking out loud, but hey, you never know, that I would love to see happen. Let's start with Konami, since they're, well, they're a shell of what they once were, let's be honest, but I feel like they're kind of trying, like, sort of, like, but, now Konami was back in the 90s especially, was a company that, just made made one masterpiece after another. Well, masterpiece is kind of a strong word, but they made, now, because I would love to see them do, more of a mishmash type of collection, not just oh, here's all the Castlevania games, here's all the Contra games, stuff do a mix. Take 2 or 3 of the best Contra games. Well, whether a game is good or bad is really a matter of opinion, but I think we can all agree not every Contra game and not every Castlevania game is great or a masterpiece or something. There are some Contra games that a lot of the PS1 Contra games weren't that good. But anyway, they could make a collection that was how can I put this? Take 2 or 3 of the best Contra games and 2 or 3 of the best Castlevania games. Throw a Metal Gear game in there. And then games maybe one of the Suikoden games, the Vandal Hats. One of the Bomberman games they made, Sparkster, Rocket Knight Adventures. Those games are very underrated. What the hell was it? Legend of the Mystical Ninja, I believe that game is called. I never got into that series, but I know they're very well beloved, so you can throw some of those in there, and the list goes on. But that's something I would love to see from Konami, which probably won't ever happen, let's be honest, but who knows? If they really want to try and bring fans back, that might be a good start, sort of. Another one, but this one is very, very unlikely, but I'm always quite an optimist. What was I gonna say? Konami, especially like back in the 80s and 90s, made some of the best licensed games ever made. So imagine if, well, let's say hell froze over and they were able to make a collection with all these licensed games. So you'd have like not all the TMNT games, but just like a few of them, like maybe like the two arcade ones, and then like the Manhattan Project, I guess, because that one's really good and very underrated. Um, then you could have like Bucky O'Hare for the NES, Bucky O'Hare the arcade game, very underrated. Um, Actually, both of those are very underrated. Um, I think this was Konami, Cowboys of Moo Mesa. You know that that was like an obscure cartoon from the '90s, which also had a toy line. There was a game of it that remember Discovery Zone. I remember my brother and I played it there, and it's actually a pretty good game from what I remember from way back when. Um, Two other ones that. Funny thing, I was like, I've seen SNES Drunk talk about these videos, and it's like, oh, it's always nice to know I'm not the only one who remembers those games. But there was a side-scrolling aliens shooter game, based off the second movie, and very good game. It used to be at the arcade that was across the street from my mom's house way back when. I think they brought it in and out like over the years. Oh, damn allergies. Anyway. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, the other one was a G.I. Joe game that it was like, I don't know if there's like a word or term for these types of shooters, but it was one of those ones where you like, it's a third-person shooter, but you just run straight forward and like shoot around and stuff. It was for 4 players. My brother and I played it at this was a G.I. Joe game, I think I mentioned that. It was for 4 players, and my brother and I played it at Chuck E. Cheese, so you could throw those on there, but. And I know there are others, those are just some ones that I can think of. Another company that made a lot of great licensed games was Capcom. They did a lot of the Disney games. We did see that, not really a collection, but it was like, what was it, like the Aladdin and the Lion King game? So it's like, hey, if they can do it, why not? Like have Capcom make a collection of all their Disney games from like the NES and Super Nintendo and Genesis. Like, I'm sure people would love that. Now, one company that has made a lot, has done this a lot over the years is Sega, but it's always the Genesis. Now, don't get me wrong, Genesis, great console, but it's like they had other systems too. Like, why is it always the Genesis? How many times are they gonna make the Genesis collection? It's nice having it on like different systems, especially for those who don't own their own systems, or if they don't use backwards compatibility or whatever the case may be. But like Sega, like what about your other collections? Like maybe a Saturn collection, if that's possible, or a Dreamcast collection. I'm sure a lot of people would love to see that, and even an arcade collection would be awesome. Like Sega had a lot of great arcade games, like especially ones from like the 80s, which I've played at like retro arcades and stuff, which a lot of those games were ported to the Master System. I've never played the Master System, but one of those games that really stands out to me, that's one of those, is an arcade title that was ported to the Master System, was Quartet, which is, it's kind of hard to explain. It's almost like that game, I want to say it's almost like Forgotten Worlds or something, like maybe I'm thinking of the wrong title, but it's a very good arcade game. The music is awesome, but that's a perfectly good example of a game that would be great on a Sega arcade collection. Another example is what the hell is it called? Golden Axe: Revenge of Death Adder, which that's the only Golden Axe game that was never released on a home, that was never ported to a console. It's exclusive to the arcade, and it's literally like the best one of the series out of like the classic Golden Axe games. Like, but I'm not going to go into details. I'm sure plenty of you know which game I'm talking about, but that's such a great game. Plus, I have other stuff to talk about. And what surprises me, let's talk about Sega's old rival, Nintendo. Actually, before we get to Nintendo, another one that I want to mention is Natsume. Now, Natsume is a company that I feel like a lot of people don't really talk about that much, but they made a lot of great games, especially during the the 16-bit era. But like they made Wild Guns, Ninja Warriors, the Pocky and Rocky games. Hell, even if Pocky and Rocky games, because there was two for the Super Nintendo, one for the Game Boy Advance, and there was others that were never released outside of Japan. So if they wanted to, like, maybe, what's the word I'm looking for? Translate those games and then put all of them into one collection. Hell, I'd buy that. Or if they just took like the two for the Super Nintendo and the stuff, and then like all the other games like from the 16-bit era made that into a collection, that would be awesome. But now let's move on to Nintendo, which it surprises me that Nintendo has never made a collection like these, because it's like, I mean, how many times have they ported the original Super Mario Brothers? I mean, there was the NES, literally like 3 versions of it. Like, there was the regular one, then the one with Duck Hunt, then the one with Duck Hunt, and some other game, I forget what it was. It might have been Track and Field or something, I don't know. Or like a volleyball game or something, I don't really remember. But, then it was on the Super Mario All-Stars collection, and the Super Mario All-Stars collection with Super Mario World. It was on the Wii Virtual Console, it was on the Wii U Virtual Console, it was on that remember those like Game Boy Advance Nintendo Reader things? There was the NES Classic Edition, then there was, there's that new thing that just came out, that like little Game & Watch thing, which personally it's like I'm probably not gonna get it. Maybe, at my local Walmart, I've seen it like there, like I've seen quite a few of them. Almost like maybe people aren't buying it, at least in that particular store. So I don't know, maybe if region wise or store wise location maybe they might put it on clearance or something. If it's on clearance, I might get it, if that's possible, if they can put it on clearance. But speaking of Nintendo and like Mario, NES and stuff, I would love to see them make a sequel to this. A SNES remix title, because this is, I've talked about this in other videos and stuff. I'm not going to go into details and stuff, and actually I just talked about it in another video. I would love to see a sequel to this, like a SNES remix. I think that would be kind of cool. But how is, like, Nintendo, I mean, like I said, like, I mean, I know, like, probably because of the, the Nintendo Switch Online thing and stuff, and then there's still, like, there was, like, the Wii Virtual Console and all that, but I've said this before, and people love to have multiple options, and I think, I'm surprised Nintendo has never made any of these collections, like, like an NES collection, or a Super Nintendo collection, or an N64 collection, list goes on, even if it was just all their first-party titles, that is something that a lot of people, myself included, would probably love to see. I mean, granted, they just came out with that Super Mario All-Stars thing. That's really much all it's always just been Mario, and although there has been rumor of a Zelda collection, so if that one has multiple titles, like, maybe like the NES games, Super Nintendo, Link to the Past, and then maybe the N64 games or something, maybe it's just, maybe that's the beginning of them getting into this market, hopefully. Maybe they'll start doing more of that. Like, there was a Kirby collection for the Wii, which I neglected to bring with me. But, I'd love to see them do more of that. Not just, like, one IP, either. Like, one IP all in one collection, but do, like, a mixture of them. Like, one of the games for one of your systems. But, like I said, maybe I'm just thinking out loud. What do you guys think of these different collections and stuff? Is there any that you would love to see happen, like the ones that I mentioned? Like, is there any others you can think of? Like, I think Capcom is another one I can see on all the different collections they've made over the years. But is there any how many times I'm going to say this? Which ones would you like to see? Let me know in the comments section below. And as always, thanks for watching. Have a nice day, everyone.